Hey everybody, we are joining you for a special St. Patrick's Day episode of Good Evening Johnny Mo with the Movies.
Yep.
We are here with episode 42 today, and before we get into that episode of what we're bringing you tonight,
We're going to get into our very Irish drinks.
that's correct.
Because we are filming on St. Patrick's Day. Today is St. Patrick's Day.
That's right. We wanted to do a little something special for everybody. It's
Yeah.
a special week.
So, drink-wise, I am actually not drinking a Guinness, but I'm drinking out of a Guinness glass. I'm having...
On pure principle.
on pure principle. We'll get into that just a little bit. But I'm drinking Murphy's Irish Stout because I'm currently protesting Guinness. So Murphy's Irish Stout is a very respectable stout. It's a product of Ireland. And it's been around not as long as Guinness, but it's been around since sometime around in the 1800s. So it's... it used to be my it used to be my third favorite stout, but they don't make my second favorite stout anymore. My second favorite stout was Bare Knuckle Stout. They don't make that
I remember
anymore.
that one, yeah.
My third favorite stout was Murphy's, but now, sorry Guinness, you're losing. You lost a big fan with what you've been doing recently, and now I can only drink Murphy's Irish Stout, which is still very good. Whereas Chris,
I am drinking Guinness today.
he is drinking Guinness.
This is
Guinness out of a can.
This is Guinness out of the can. Last week we were drinking, we were testing the waters of Guinness out of the bottle, which I didn't think it was too bad, but it's I think still better out of the can.
Yeah.
It's not the same as years past, which is why Johnny Mo's in his protest.
Yeah, traditionally Guinness out of the best thing you could buy in the store would have been Guinness out of the can. Nothing beats on tap, obviously.
Right.
And right now, I'm currently only drinking Guinness on tap because they're doing something with the Guinness. I don't know what it is. They changed something in their production or their process or whatever. But the Guinness that you can buy in the store out of the can or the bottle is not as good as it used to be.
I'm going to take his word for it because he's been drinking Guinness a lot longer than I have.
And I can't drink it.
But because it's St. Patrick's Day, I am going to do Guinness tonight.
Right. And that's why I have turned my logo around.
I have no problem facing mine out.
But before we have that, we have to discuss our chasers. For chasers, we have
Well,
Irish...
actually, these are going to be the shooters. These are going to be the start. Yeah.
These are the starters, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny, right?
You're so excited about the Murphys.
I'm so excited about the Murphys. I'm contemplating chasing my Murphys with a shot. That doesn't make any sense.
So you go with yours
So
first.
my shot, we have different shots actually, both Irish whiskeys. I have, when I haven't been drinking, I've only been drinking this for a couple of years, but it's SLANE, which when I saw it, I said, I went to the bar and I said, I'll have the Slane Irish whiskey, but apparently this is a Gaelic word and it's pronounced sláinte. So it's the Sláinte Irish whiskey. It's triple cast. It's not that expensive, but it actually is really, really good. And this is like the only whiskey they sell. I don't think there's a less expensive version, or maybe there's a more expensive version, but I've never seen it. But this is if you go to the liquor store and buy Sláinte Irish whiskey,
that's it.
this is what you get. And it's actually really, really tasty.
And tonight, so Johnny Mo brought over for me, because I didn't have any, some Jameson Black Barrel.
Black Barrel. Now, the Jameson Black Barrel is the next level up from regular Jameson. You can just go to the store and buy Jameson. Jameson typically, it's good Irish whiskey, but it has a little bit of a bite to it. The Jameson Black Barrel has much less bite. And it's not that much more expensive. It's the next level up, but it's not like double the price of Jameson.
Right. But it's nice and
it's like an
smooth.
extra $10 more. And it's totally worth it. So basically, I only buy Jameson Black Barrel. Whether I'm doing shots, mixed drinks, or Irish coffees, Jameson Black Barrel all the way.
And normally I'm a Jack Daniels guy, but because it's St. Patrick's Day,
Yeah.
I have no problem drinking Jameson. So with that, we are going to cheers to everybody.
Oh,
You still going with
I'm
you still going with
I'm
your
looking
stout.
forward to my Murphys. It's ridiculous. Here we go.
To everybody watching and listening on the podcast, thank you guys so much for supporting us.
Yep. And
cheers.
Happy St. Patrick's
Happy
Day.
St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Very nice.
Ooh,
Very
that's
nice.
good. Both of them are very
right.
smooth. I'm going to have a shot of the Jameson later. Don't worry about that.
That's the after party. That's after the show. So for episode 42.
Well, before we get into that,
Oh gosh, there's more.
yeah, we have our shirts. Well, you're obviously wearing an Irish shirt,
Well, I did this. I'm wearing.
a green Ireland shirt.
Yeah.
Me, I never wear green on St. Patrick's Day. It's just one of those things. I'm part Irish, and I never felt the need to put on the green Irish costume. Like to me, like everybody wears the, like when I go to the St. Rocco's festival, I don't wear a pin that says "Kiss me, I'm Italian." I'm Italian. You can just kiss me if you want. You need a button to tell me that. But I traditionally wear black on St. Patrick's Day, and that is to me that's the stout, the color of stout. So as it turns out, I happen to have a black Batman shirt, which is going to be perfect for what we're reviewing today.
Works for tonight.
And underneath my shirt, I was actually going to contemplate just wearing this, but I said, "Oh, let me wear the black Batman shirt." I have a black wife beater, which would be you would call it a Guinea tea, but if you spill a little Guinness on it, it becomes a black Guinnessy tea, I guess. So I think that works.
I'm glad you got your stout on there.
Yeah.
A proud moment. So tonight's episode that we're doing is the 2017 Joss Whedon's Justice League.
Right. And before we get into that, there's still more.
One more cheers.
Mm-hmm. Quick shout out to friends and family of Goody and Johnny Moe at the movies. I wanted to give a shout out to my dad, who is actually one of the people that was one of the main reasons I probably got into watching movies. He was always a big fan of older films and recent films too. Like Star Wars is one of his favorite films, but he was always a big fan of films from the 30s and 40s, a lot of war movies, a lot of westerns. So I think he was a motivating factor for me as a kid to watch older films. And now, granted, when I was growing up in the 70s, older films were on TV all the time. You didn't have to search them out on one cable channel at a 500. There was constantly showing old movies on TV. But I think one of the things I inherited from him even more so than that is his list making and his cataloging of stuff. Because I remember growing up, my dad had a movie book, a thick movie book that listed hundreds and hundreds of movies, and in it, he checked off the movies that he had seen, and I always remembered that. And when I finally got my Leonard Maltin books, movie guides, back in the late 80s and early 90s, I started doing the same thing. And I think maybe my dad probably slacked off with it because he doesn't have that book anymore. But since 1989, I've been keeping track of every single movie that I've seen, marked off in the book. And I don't buy the Leonard Maltin book every year because transferring that information every year would take forever.
Very tedious.
So the oldest one I have is from 1992. But any movie that I've seen since then, or any movie that isn't actually listed in the book, I write in the margin on the page that it belongs. And it's a really, it's a 1,000-page book, so there's tons of room. I could use that book for the rest of my life, and I'm not going to run out of room. But yeah, so, I've been doing that forever and will continue to do so. And I think, that's something, keeping track of stuff and making lists and writing things down and doing your favorite movies of all time. I think all those things that I do with my movies, I think I got that from my dad. So
that's pretty cool.
So I want to give a special cheers to my dad, George. Okay, so now
we're talking about the episode.
What are we talking about?
Well, we are going to be talking about since this week is a special week because after this is 4 years in the making that the Zack Snyder Justice League film will finally be seen by the worldwide audience.
Right. The Zack Snyder version is coming out, and the version that was released in the theater was
75% of the 2017 film was done by Joss Whedon, who came in to basically finish the film after Zack Snyder had a family tragedy happen and was not able to finish the film. The principal photography had been, I think, completed at that time. They were in post-production. I don't know if reshoots or anything were going to have to be done, but Warner Brothers brought Joss Whedon in to finish the film. He reshot an extensive portion of this film, which is what we basically saw in 2017. And we are now one day away from the Zack Snyder film being released, and I'm hearing quite a bit that most of what you see in Zack Snyder's film was not in Whedon's film.
And that's fine.
And the story beats that worked in the 27 Justice League film, those are the ones that are carried over into this film that were most likely shot by Zack.
Now it's funny because I quite often have a hard time keeping track or even knowing the directors of a lot of the more recent superhero films, whether it's Marvel or DC. Because at the end of the day, most of these movies do not have an artistic stamp, in my opinion, where you can say, "Oh, this is so and so's movie. This is so and so's movie." The only exception to that would be Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, to me, are very distinctive and have a certain, artistic flair, the stamp of a director, the stamp of a true artist. Whereas I think so many of the other films are really just,
formula.
different, slightly different sizes of the same cookie cutter, and using the same dough. And, they just have slightly different cookie cutter sizes. It's very formulaic. There's a formula to these films that most people adhere to. They don't really deviate too much. Some things like like Guardian. I think Guardians of the Galaxy was a departure because of I think of the humor. There's so much more humor in that movie than other ones. But I don't know who exactly to attribute that to. But yeah, so when like I always ask Chris, we're watching the Snyder Cut, the Whedon Cut, who did what first? I can't keep track of them because it's not like it's not like Hitchcock versus Spielberg. Those are two clearly distinctive styles. Right. You can't a lot of these directors I think today are either interchangeable or you don't even care what their name is. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Well, we know that Whedon did the first two Avengers films. They did...
See, I didn't even know that.
See, Whedon did Avengers, and then he also did Avengers Age of Ultron. Mm-hmm. And I think Warner Brothers brought him in, hoping that, doing their team-up film, of all their characters...
so there's been directors that have worked on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
Disney movies and Disney Marvel movies and DC movies.
Correct.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So now that we're finally going to get to see Zack's footage of this, and I think Zack is definitely he's a big visual storyteller. His big trilogy in this really was Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, the Ultimate Edition. I will not address the theatrical version because I don't watch that. I only watch the Ultimate Edition.
Yep,
it's the only one worth watching. And then Justice League. These three films he had directed, and this is supposed to be the end of his trilogy and the stamp on where things were supposed to go. He also did help produce Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman film. Mm-hmm. And of course, because he helped cast Gal Gadot to be Wonder Woman, I thought that was that's key also in her development and where she is.
The first Wonder Woman film came out between Batman v Superman and Justice League.
Correct. Right. And because Wonder Woman was such a huge hit, Warner Brothers, I believe, wanted some more of her put into the forefront of the Justice League film because it was like their first really big overall positive film after Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman.
Mm-hmm. But since Justice League came out, we've had Aquaman.
We've had Aquaman, we've had Shazam, we've had Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad, I think, came out after Batman vs Superman, and then Wonder Woman came out after that. Yeah. We've had Birds of Prey, and we've had the Wonder Woman 84, and now we have...
So Aquaman was really kind of like, I think, as a tease, introduced in Batman v Superman, and then was fully introduced in Justice League, and then got his own movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, that's the one thing is that you're going back. The Whedon film, when it came out in 2017, you already had these other films. These films were kind of set up already in like this order that they were going in. And now this film, it's coming out in 2021, but it's still really dating back to 2017 when it was supposed to be released. So I guess you've kind of got to keep those story beats in mind, I think, when you're kind of watching this. Shazam hasn't happened yet. Birds of Prey hasn't happened yet.
Right.
Wonder Woman 84 hasn't happened yet. So to me, I think that's going to be the most interesting character.
Which Wonder Woman 84 never happened. Well, actually, that took place in the past.
It took place in the past, yes, but it's the fact that just her whole story of she was away for 100 years and didn't really do anything with mankind, but she did, and they kind of like retconned that with Wonder Woman 84.
Now, a complete sidebar question. Is there any talk at all at any point of Supergirl being brought into the DC cinematic universe?
Yes, she is being. She actually was just casted, and she's being brought into the Flash movie that's coming out.
Oh, that
Different.
that's good.
Yeah.
That should be good for our first
Oh,
appearance.
for our first appearance
For our
Supergirl.
first appearance Supergirls. Both of us proud owners of our first appearance Supergirl.
So yeah, that has happened. I think it's just a shame that because Snyder had that family tragedy. Now, things did kind of derail, but DC is definitely doing things in a different direction. They're not so much about the cohesive universe. They're at this point, they're kind of doing these standalone films, and then maybe down the line they'll start to see where they can bridge things and pull things together.
Well,
with the exception, actually, of the Flash movie, because the Flash movie, and we could talk about this later, is supposed to have a lot of cameos from other films, not just this generation's DC characters, but previous generations of DC characters. Like Michael Keaton is supposed to have a presence in this film.
Oh, okay.
As a much older Bruce Wayne,
Probably like one of those,
like an Elseworlds.
Yeah.
Almost. Well, I think what they're doing is they're basically introducing the multiverse. Like they are going to show the multiverse in this. But because we haven't seen Justice League yet, there is something in one of the trailers where Flash definitely is using his abilities, and it's almost like everything is stopped around him, but it's almost like he's seeing different things going on, and I'm wondering if he's going to see the multiverse at one point and tease us with that.
Yeah, because I think that I think you get elements of that in Crisis on Infinite Earths in the comic book series.
In the comics,
but all that harkens back to, I think, that original story arc, JLA, Justice League of America 21 and 22,
where the Flash of Two Worlds, right?
Yeah, well, no.
What's the title? No, that's Flash 123, right?
That's Flash 123, but in Justice League 21-22, you had the current Justice League of America
the Justice
crossing
Society.
over with the Justice Society of America,
right? Yeah.
From the 40s. And I forget the name of that story arc, but it's a very famous, to me, I always considered to be, if there was there aren't too many DC keys that I really, really want.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants an Action Comics #1, but I'm not a Superman guy. So
thank you.
In my opinion,
never afford it, but I'd like
things
one.
like Action 252 was always high on my list, and Justice League of America 21 and 22 were always high on my list because 21 is the classic cover of where you see the Justice Society of America in a cloud, and it's that whole crossover. And I think that's the book that really kind of brought in the whole, there's all different Earths.
If I'm not mistaken,
and that's what this is about. There's Michael Keaton Batman. There's all these different Batmans.
But I think that's one of the best parts about DC is that they introduce that. Then, no matter what they're creating, all of these other films have existed in this grand universe. It's just if you enjoy the Christopher Reeve Supermans, if you enjoy the Michael Keaton Batmans or the Chris Nolan Batmans, all of that stuff exists. And I think that's a great way of them casting other actors for the same role and doing a separate film and getting away with it. They can do a Joker film, a standalone Joker film, and it's completely by itself, and it won't interfere with whatever else they're doing.
Right, because gotta keep in mind, what DC has done traditionally over decades and decades and decades is they're constantly rebooting their universe, and they very creatively, and it's almost really, I want to say, a cheat, but they very creatively say that, or explain that away, because they say, well, everything that we did in the past, it's not that it didn't happen, it's in another,
Right.
it's in an alternate Earth, so
Right.
every time they replace the current reality, all the realities from the past are now these alternate Earths, and this is the real reality. And then it's like, well, in 5 years, this is going to go away, and
Right.
that's going
And
to be
then they'll do
gone,
something else.
and they're going to reboot everything, and it's they're actually keeping it all in the DC multiverse.
Right.
But it's it also is very convenient to do that, because anytime you don't like the direction your entire universe is going, you can just wipe it clean and start over.
Well, I think that's kind of where Warner Brothers was going with the Flash movie, is that they were hoping that they could take the Flash and introduce the multiverse, and then by the end of that film, taking the whole DC films in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We're going to see how this all works out.
Because Marvel did it the other way. Marvel tried to basically keep a stable continuity for I think they were able to do that for over 30 years until it finally broke down, probably because they didn't have someone like Stan Lee at the helm, making sure.
Oh, in the comics, yeah.
Yeah, things were right. But yeah, but in the comics, eventually, I think somewhere around the 90s, Fantastic Four #1 from the early 60s, somewhere around the 90s, I think Marvel continuity started to break down, and and since then, God knows how many Marvel universes there's been.
Yeah.
But also Marvel has a multiverse as well.
Right.
That's the whole basis of the What If stories. But
And
anyhow,
and I think this, it's a great segue for this Justice League, because it's almost like we get to see I don't think this is considered a different multiverse. However, it's just interesting that we're going to, basically have two Justice Leagues.
Yeah. Now, we just did a fresh viewing of this a couple of days ago.
We did. So that's one of the reasons why we kind of freshened up, knowing that the new film's coming out.
Because
we said, okay, let's go back and let's
only
rewatch the 2017 film.
I had only seen it in the theaters once, I think, and then I don't think I've seen it since.
I've seen it several times.
And I know you definitely saw it.
Yeah, I've seen it several times.
But so to me, it was enjoyable watching it again, because I remember watching it the first time and not being overly blown away. There were things I liked about it, things I didn't, but the overall impression, it didn't. I thought it could have been better. I was expecting more. I felt Wonder Woman wasn't used nearly as much as I would have thought. She was, really too much of a side character, supporting character, and not more of like a forefront leader type character. But oddly enough, watching it again, I enjoyed it a lot more. And at the end of the day, almost every film worth watching is worth watching twice. There are certain movies you should never see at all. You can live without never seeing them. Then there's movies that you saw it once and you're like, one and done, never need to see that again, and that's fine. But then any good movie is worth watching twice, because you're gonna where it's going, so you can pay more attention to what's going on.
Right.
You're gonna catch things that you didn't realize before. And I think this movie, in my opinion, definitely played better the second time. I think I enjoyed it more, but I still definitely had some criticism.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, part of the biggest problem with this film is the visual effects were not done well. It's no secret that the visual effects were rushed because the executives wanted to get this film out before the end of the year, because it was going to affect their bottom line, and they wanted to make extra cash.
Yeah.
And they basically said they wanted to keep it under 2 hours, which they kept it at like 2 hours almost exactly, because they felt they'd get more screenings in, so they'd get more revenue in the end. And I think that really hurt this film. And I think because they rushed it, because as soon as that tragedy happened with Zach...
You can do 2 hours for a single character film, and that's not a problem. But if you're doing
with a team up like this...
again, DC, is penny smart and dollar stupid when it comes to a lot of these things. They really are.
And I think that ultimately put this film behind the 8 ball, because if you look at just Steppenwolf's visual effects was not done very well.
That might be my #1 criticism of the film, because his...
Not the covered mustache of Henry Cavill?
No.
So, do you know about this?
No.
Okay. So, for the people, again, we're going into spoilers here, who have not seen this film in the past 4 years, so you kind of missed the boat on this. So, Henry Cavill films Justice League with Zack Snyder.
Right.
He gets casted in Mission Impossible, I think 6, with Tom Cruise.
Okay.
He has to grow a nice fancy mustache.
Okay.
And now Joss Whedon wants to do reshoots and get Cavill back to film. 2 different studios. Mission Impossible is filmed by Paramount, I believe. And Warner Brothers asked Paramount if they could get him, and they said, yeah, we'll loan you Henry. And they were like, okay,
but you can't shave his mustache.
Can we get rid of this mustache? Superman doesn't have a mustache. And they go, no, absolutely not. Yeah. So the choice was that Warner Brothers said they would pay for the visual effects for Paramount to put a CG mustache on Henry Cavill
for the Mission Impossible,
for whatever scenes for whatever remaining scenes he still had to film.
And they said no.
Yeah,
I don't blame them. So, sorry.
Right. So Warner Brothers at this point is kind of behind the... They're kind of screwed.
CG erased the mustache.
And that's what they did. So FX, the visual effects did it, and it was so poorly done.
Really?
If you just
In what way? That it looks like
it doesn't
looks
look,
like
it looks like an odd mouth.
It looks like a mini Phantom Zone on his hovering over
I mean,
his mouth.
in some scenes, yeah, like some scenes seem a little bit better than others, but it's very apparent. Like in the beginning of the film, when they're doing like the kid's like home video camera that he's like recording on his cell phone.
He looks very odd.
Yeah, because
Well,
that's all.
And yet
that's his mustache.
I was definitely going to mention that because to me, I thought he looked odd in that video, but I thought it was more along the lines that his face was fatter.
They did it on purpose with the phone because it kind of like distorted the image. So it's like, oh, guess what? They won't be able to tell because it's like a cell phone video and it's not going to be of high quality. So they did that part on purpose. So you really couldn't
distorted his
see
face.
it. And they
So you couldn't
it's slightly
see what?
distorted. But you could still tell. Like it's just terrible.
So you couldn't see what
The stash.
the fake stash,
The fake stash.
the CGI,
The CG erased.
the erased stash,
The erased CG stash.
and that not for nothing. I think, drawing your attention, using something that's odd to draw your attention from something that's odd, is a double oddity. You know what I'm saying?
it like heightened it.
Right.
It made
It just
worse.
heightened the whole thing as being odd looking.
And the hard, the sad part is like that's the opening of the film, and you watch that and you're like how much do we have to look forward to this? And there were multiple scenes when Henry Cavill does come back from the dead, and it's the CG of the CG vanishing of his mustache just was not handled well.
Yeah. Now,
And so
I was,
and that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to. This movie is because it's him.
He's really not going to have a
in
mustache.
tip-top shape, and he won't have the stash. Like we won't have stash gate. So
Right.
like I can't wait to see Henry Cavill's scenes that I've been dying to watch for the last 4 years.
See now, and to me, I still think the Steppenwolf visual is more discerning because I think it's all of Steppenwolf that doesn't
Yes.
look good, and
Yeah.
he is actually in the movie quite a bit. There's
Yeah.
and he
He
just
gets a lot of close-ups.
he
so.
just obviously looks CG. Every single thing about him looks fake. Like his, facially, his face doesn't look good. But like even just his whole outfit, like it's supposed to be like made of metal or whatever armor, and it just doesn't look good.
No, it
You know,
doesn't.
and that's a shame because
like
he's-
there were just some
he's your main
parts-
villain of the film.
Yeah, oh god, it's just so interesting. So all right, so if we're gonna break this down, let's break this down somewhat in an organized way,
Now,
so
oddly
that we
enough,
can kind of stay on task.
Yeah, oddly enough, Steppenwolf is not a character I was really familiar with, but apparently he's been around since the 70s.
He was in New Gods. Yeah,
Yeah, and I didn't really read the New Gods when they came
It's
out. in the 70s.
Darkseid's uncle.
Oh, it's his uncle.
Steppenwolf is
not
his uncle.
Not his nephew.
No,
It's Darkseid.
Darkseid's
It's
the nephew.
Darkseid uncle. Yeah. So yeah, apparently he was. He's been around in the whole New Gods.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
but basically, like in this
the
film,
fourth world
The
that was
fourth-
created
the
by
fourth
Jack
New-
Kirby.
right.
And I forget what issue of New Gods.
But you basically get
I don't
to-
have that issue, which kind of stinks.
you get the gist of the fact that like Steppenwolf is trying to please Darkseid by coming back to Earth and conquering it,
Yeah.
and collecting the mother boxes. Like if we're going, so I let's break it down by performances real quick and just go over some of the cast and the characters that they had in this film.
Well, I want to talk about
which there are many.
Oh,
so let's
yeah,
do
okay.
this first, and then we'll go.
And
to
then we'll
your-
go back to. I want to go back to Steppenwolf a little bit.
We'll talk about him. Yeah.
Not his character, but just like a little bit of the backstory. I didn't quite understand some of his backstory. The way they
In the
presented
film.
it in the film.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely go over that. So obviously we have Henry Cavill returning as Superman, and they definitely wrote him a lot lighter in this film compared to Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman.
What do you mean by that later?
He wasn't as, they had him as like a the people were characterizing him as a brooding personality, especially in Batman vs Superman. Where
Okay.
he was more down. And this, he's definitely, like, once he comes back and snaps out of being dead, definitely a much like brighter,
Yeah.
like person, like the Superman personality,
Okay.
kind of like come to know.
And I want to talk about that too, about him when he comes back. I didn't. There's an aspect of that I don't understand.
Yeah,
you tried to explain it to me, and I
Yeah.
still don't understand.
We'll
but
go. We
go
can
over
go
that
through
again.
That'll be the plot. That'll be the plot
I'm
points.
putting over little check marks in my head. Things I want to talk about.
I still thought Gal Gadot did a good job. I agree with you that she could have been utilized, I think, even more.
Yeah. No, I thought she was really good.
As much as I loved Ben Affleck in Batman vs Superman, I thought he did such a great job as both Bruce Wayne and Batman. I said in our review then, when Ben was first announced, I was very iffy about him being Batman. I thought he would do a great Bruce Wayne, and I thought he did great in both. This film, I think you could tell the scenes when it's not Zach, when he's kind of when it's filming for Joss, because it just his enthusiasm just doesn't seem to play off on screen like it did for the previous film.
I feel his performance is a little lazier, and it's like
and my guess is
like he's almost tired of the role.
But I think it's because he had to do it twice.
Oh,
I think those scenes were the second time around, and I think unfortunately his energy wasn't in it.
And
as
he's
much
in the
when that
movie
happened.
a lot.
Yeah,
he's got a lot of
He's the
scenes.
guy that has to bring
because
everyone
he's the guy
together.
bringing the Justice League together.
Two people that I thought were standouts in this film: Jason Momoa. I thought he landed Aquaman. He made me laugh. I enjoyed him when he was on screen, and I even liked Ezra Miller as the Flash. I thought he was kind of like this boyish, giddy kid who's like meeting his heroes. Like the one scene where he sees the bat signal and he's with Bruce and Diana, and he's like, "Oh my God, that's your signal." It's like, as like if we were him standing next to them and we saw that, we're like, "Oh my God, they're calling you."
He would fit perfectly well right alongside the cast of The Big Bang Theory when they all got dressed up for Comic-Con and they were all dressed up as characters. Like he would be right there, like, "Hey, I'm coming too."
Yeah, that would be it. But like he was funny to me. He brought a little comedy to the role.
He was definitely to me the comic relief, and I think it worked.
Oh, I think so too. Like it was like the Peter Parker-ish type character,
and because he played it authentically, like you felt that was his personality.
And I like that
and I like that.
In the one scene where these guys are just starting to like kind of fight some of the parademons and go up against Steppenwolf for the first time, like Barry Allen he's like really scared because he's never really done a big fight like this.
Yeah, the closest he's been to something like this is like a showdown against a boss in a video game.
He's just used to like saving people, but
don't fight.
Right.
Like I've never, he's not trained in combat.
Right.
And he's never been in
just
combat.
Fast. And I thought
and in fact he could run away from a fight and be like, he doesn't have to fight. He can run away.
But that's what he says. He usually that's the perfect thing because he says to Bruce, he's like, "I just push people and run away."
Yeah, right, which is great, for someone like him.
But I think seeing some of that character development was interesting. I really liked Jim Gordon in this, which is
played by.
He was J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man films. Oh, that's gonna kill me.
That's gonna kill me.
Simmons? J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons?
J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I am really hoping he's in this film a lot more because when I saw him on screen as Gordon, I couldn't wait to get more of him, and we had such a short run.
Oh, yeah,
of him.
he was J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah.
In the
original
Tobey
Spider-Man
Maguire
movies.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. And he's also playing it now in the MCU Spider-Man.
Oh.
We see him at the end of... he was in the end credits.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Of the last... when the adventure in Europe.
Far From Home.
Far From
Home.
Home.
Yeah, that one. So, I really like J.K. Simmons. I'm really hoping to see more of him. We get Alfred again, played by... Should have had this written down.
This is what we do. We just talk. We don't have notes. We go off the top of our head.
That's going to kill me.
I know who it is.
I'm going to have to come swing back.
Okay, so he was the same guy who played the brother of the bad guy from Die Hard.
Die Hard with a Vengeance.
And he was the bad guy in Die Hard too.
Yeah.
That guy.
So
7 degrees to somebody.
I'm gonna figure that one. But anyway, loved him as Alfred.
Yeah,
in
because
the last
he
film.
was the same one in Batman v Superman.
Yes.
But that was the first, that was the first one he was in, right? Yeah. He's kind of like almost like a cool kind of kick-ass, but like subdued. Like he's very mellow, but you don't want to mess with him type character. Like and he gives his jabs to Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
He's on his case. He's critical of him, and he doesn't care.
But I like that. I think because Alfred always balances Bruce out, and I think that he does that so well in this movie.
Yeah, no, he's a good actor.
I like that. I like that a lot. We had a newcomer, which was
The guy
Fisher,
who
who played Cyborg. Yep.
And Cyborg's dad is, I think, Tony Morton. I think his name is Morton, I think.
I'm going to cheat and bring out my phone, which I usually don't do when we're filming. I usually do this behind the scenes.
You will never see me cheat like that because I don't own a cell phone, which is good.
No, he doesn't.
It's good.
So the other one that I...
the father, I think his name is his last name is Morton, but I forget. But he's,
Yep.
you know, he was what's the name of the company? Star Labs, Starcore, Star Labs.
Yep.
But you know, you would recognize him as
Joe
being,
Morton.
Joe Morton.
Joe Morton. Yep.
Yeah, you would recognize him as being one of the guys that's I want to say Cyberdyne.
Cyberdyne.
Terminator 2.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
That's going all the way back to 92 or 91.
Yeah, he's the guy who, like, you know, so it's funny that, like, he's, you know, involved in this high-tech stuff in Cyberdyne and Star Labs. He's almost like the same type of
He's a
character.
tech guy. So Jeremy Irons is the butler.
Yes.
Okay, that's Alfred. And then, of course, I'm sorry, I couldn't remember Ray Fisher's first name. So I said Fisher before, but Ray. So
Ray Fisher is Cyborg.
He's playing Cyborg.
Okay.
Then, of course, we have Diane Lane still and Amy Adams reprising their roles as Lois Lane and Martha.
And you know what? I found Diane Lane's portrayal and especially in the beginning scenes when she's
at the Daily Planet.
When she's at the Daily Planet, she looked different to me. She didn't look like that earthy type, you know, woman of the earth, you know, gritty, grainy lines in her face, you know, total in character. She looked more made up. She looked more dollish, and I didn't like that because I think, but when she showed up back again in Smallville, when they went back to the house.
So like, I don't know if
I
part
think
of that
she looked more.
See, I don't know if part of that scene is because it had been like a year since like Clark died. So like, is she still like feeling? Is she still grieving at that point in time, and that's why she's like that? You know, that part I don't know. But I've always loved Diane Lane and Amy Adams in those characters.
See, and I was never a big fan of Amy Adams as Lois Lane. She doesn't do anything for me.
I liked her a lot in Man of Steel. Man of Steel, she sold me on that character. I thought she did really well. This is just, you know, I want to see what she does differently in Snyder's film versus Whedon's film, and I think we are going to get a different portrayal of both of those characters. I think of almost all of these characters, it's going to be somewhat different.
But all played by the same people.
All played by the same people. Right. Connie Nielsen is still playing Hippolyta, so we see her again.
Hippolyta.
Yeah.
I thought it was Hippolyta. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Who is what? Gal Gadot's mother?
Wonder Woman's mother.
Yep.
Leader of the Amazons. So she fights off Steppenwolf at one point in time. So she's in this again. Like a lot of characters, but just to squeeze all these characters within a 2-hour film.
Right. And because you got some jerk at the top going, well, you know, we got to
make our money.
We need to make our money. We need to have
as many viewings as possible.
You know, so it's like, you know, like, all right, okay, so we're gonna have, you know,
so
things going on at Amazon Island, or what do you call it? Is it Amazon Island or something else? Paradise Island. Amazon. You know, Paradise Island. You're gonna have, you know, all these different characters. We're introducing like Aquaman, and Cyborg,
you're introducing
and
basically
Flash
everybody
for the first time.
You're introducing major characters to the team and just glossing over their story pretty much.
You know, and it's just
and they're just and Batman somehow gets these people together within
and because
an hour
DC didn't want to copy the Marvel formula and have a separate Cyborg movie and a separate Aquaman movie and a separate Flash movie prior to Justice League. They had to, you know, now you're introducing origins or whatever to all these characters all at once, and it's like.
But here's what makes sense. So the Zack Snyder film that's coming out is 4 hours long. Okay, so it's double the length of this movie.
Right.
So if you're taking all of these characters and introducing them and giving them some type of storyline that these guys all, not only are you introducing them, but you have to get them all to come together and gel. That's going to take time.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're able to do this now with a 4, like this probably could have been, like if Snyder would have got his way and aired this the first time around, it probably would have been a 3-hour film.
Yeah, because I'm going to say, I think he would have had a hard time selling a 4-hour movie.
No, the 4-hour film would have been.
Because they would have said, come on, this isn't Gone with the Wind. You know,
What would have happened is
even with the Flash, it's not Gone with the Wind.
It would have been a Lord of the Rings situation. You would have had a 3-hour theatrical cut and then a 4-hour director's cut.
And that being said, it's not the Lord of the Rings as well. It's not the Lord of the Rings.
It's not.
You know, so it's so I think a 4-hour cell would have been. They would have said, look, you got to cut it down. At the end of the day, you cut it down to 2 hours and 47 minutes, and then I think you got.
Which would have been a heck of a lot more than what we got.
Which would have been probably at least 45 minutes more than what we got, and I think that would have been enough.
Yeah, because I think it was 2 hours with the credits. So like you're not.
Because how long is the extended cut of Batman v Superman?
It's 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about two characters,
and that's a half hour more than what was in the film. What was done theatrically. Mm-hmm. So to me, like I don't know, there's a lot to this film. Left to be desired. There were some good things. Like there were some really good scenes. The scene with Clark and Martha and Lois Lane in Smallville. I thought that was a touching scene. That was great. The grave digging scene with Cyborg and Flash digging up Superman's body. Not so much.
Okay, so the scene where they're back in Smallville, and I don't know what I guess the bank repossessed.
Oh, the very end of the film. No, the bank. No, yeah. Basically, like Martha couldn't keep up with the payments for the mortgage.
So the bank repossessed.
The bank took the
bank
house.
Repossessed the.
They took the home.
The home. So then they're like, so Bruce Wayne stepped in and saved the day, and it's like,
Well, at the end of the movie, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, how did you do it? I'm like, he bought the bank. I don't know that he had to buy the bank to save a house. Like he's a billionaire, right? Like he could have just bought out the loan for whatever, $100,000. You know what I'm saying? Hey, how much could he possibly have owed on that property?
If the bank is taking away Martha's home, that's probably been in the Kent family for how many years? Like the bank, that's mean to the bank. So Bruce was like, no, screw that. I'm buying the bank, and I'm gonna make sure these people stay in their homes.
Oh, okay, because it made it sound like that was the only way to solve the problem.
No, it wasn't.
All you had to do was buy the house and give it to them and say, "Here you go. I paid the difference. I paid the back taxes, which is about 1.0000001% of his net worth. It's like he probably had that much money in loose change in his pocket. Because he only walks around with Krugerangs.
Does he?
Oh, I got 10 Krugerangs here in my pocket. That'll cover it.
Does he carry your money? So you wanted to talk about.
So I thought that was a little.
Now you wanted to talk about how they brought him back.
No. I want to go further back. I want to go to the beginning, and talk about the whole backstory with Steppenwolf and the three boxes, because they make it sound like 5,000 years ago there was a battle on Earth, mm-hmm. and he lost, mm-hmm. and the boxes were on Earth.
Yes.
And now he's back to right that wrong. One, why did it take 5,000 years? Two, what has he been doing since then? Because, they talk about how they use these boxes. These boxes are what they use to destroy the planet.
Right, and turn it into like an almost like an apocalypse.
Right. So are these the only three boxes? And if so, I don't, what has he been using to do what he's been doing for the last 5,000 years?
I don't know.
And do they, do they live that long? Does Steppenwolf live that long? Or do these
when Wonder Woman goes through the history, I don't know how many years it's been. It's definitely been centuries.
Right.
It's been centuries.
For some reason, it's 5,000 years.
I don't know if it's been millennia, but I mean, it's you're definitely talking. You're talking ages.
And the one for Mankind is apparently buried in a shallow grave somewhere.
Well, that's the one that's now at Star Labs.
They just buried it.
Yeah. They didn't know what else to do with it.
They just made it sound like it's like Steppenwolf comes back. He goes, "I'm here. I'm back." It's like it almost seems like time-wise, the way they presented it, it made it seem like he lost the battle, went home, licked his wounds, gathered up a new force, and came back for another fight, which would have happened
relatively in a short period of time.
A year later or less, depending on how fast he had to kiss Darkseid's ass. But it's like and tell him I failed. But it's like like this was like his first failure, and he's been a failure. So you tell me he's been a failure for 5,000 years and hasn't done anything else, or has he been doing all sorts of world conquering since then?
Well, it might have been something where he kind of, you don't know. It's not
They
talked
just
about.
the time frames and the way they present the story, it just seemed like
Well, in the
it took
original,
him 5,000 years to get back.
in the original trailer for now, the original trailer for the film when it came out, the teaser, that was all of Zack Snyder's footage, and in it you hear Steppenwolf say that basically, like, mankind's like at like its lowest. There's no Kryptonians here anymore. Basically, no one to cause him any trouble if he comes. Where like if he was to come back somewhat sooner, he still would have had to deal with the Atlanteans, the Amazons, and man. If he were to come back again, and he'd have to fight all of them all over again.
Yeah.
So, but at this point now, at this point in time in history for him, none of those, none of those factions are fighting
I
together.
mean, this is
anymore.
man before like the Industrial Revolution. Like they don't have atomic, they don't have nuclear bombs.
No, but you had the gods. You had the gods fighting them. You had a Green Lantern fighting for them. I
Okay.
mean, all the Atlanteans and the Amazons they're all warriors.
yeah.
And the Atlanteans had advanced weaponry.
Oh, we'll talk about the Amazons.
Well, not the Amazons. I'm sorry. The Atlanteans had advanced weaponry. So to me, I don't. Again, time wise, yes. Like you think he would have came and attacked sooner.
Yeah.
But how they presented it in the original trailer was the reason why he was attacking now is because Superman's gone and the overall like hope of the world is at like its lowest.
Right.
So he felt he could attack and conquer Earth at this point in time.
Right.
Because no one was there to fight him.
Right, but keep in mind, Superman's only been around for the last 30 years.
But in that, but
Like
but
and
there,
like
but
at any point, there was 4,970
Right.
years where there was no Kryptonians, that could tip the scale.
Yeah,
Like,
so no, I agree with you. Timeline wise, that part doesn't make sense.
you
That's why I'm
eliminate
wondering if-
Superman, you're pretty much back to where you were 50 years ago and all the time before. But in fact, it's gotten even worse now because, like I said, humanity can start throwing nuclear weapons.
So where this will be this time around in this film, I'm interested to see, like, because you're introducing Darkseid. It's not just Steppenwolf that's coming back; it's Darkseid fighting.
And it's about
So-
time.
so we're gonna see.
It's about time because I always said at the end of the day, if if the DC universe can just get a storyline and do something that's cohesive and with a direction and get to
Get to Darkseid.
Darkseid and
Yeah.
actually get there, not because all these movies are like we're getting there.
He's only mentioned once.
We're getting there.
He's mentioned one time in this film. Steppenwolf says,
Oh yeah,
for
no, but when
Darkseid.
you see
And that's
Batman v
it.
Superman with the parademons, you know what
hinting.
You know what they're talking about.
Yes.
So it's like okay, now we're getting there.
But that was such
It's
a
like, okay,
and that was such a
you know
cool
what?
reveal.
You need,
That nightmare
You need
scene.
to freaking get there. You need to get because if they don't get there, everything they've done is nothing. It's like doing all these. It was like doing that whole first wave of Marvel movies and never doing the last two Avengers movies.
Well,
Just saying, you know what, we don't like the direction it's going in. We don't want to take the risk. And now it's you just don't Thanos has been in all these movies and let's just stop. And it's you'd be left off with a
I know.
book with the last chapter ripped out. What happened? Well, we don't know.
I think what will be interesting for this film, with the Zack Snyder film, is to see what's so different with Darkseid coming in, and how does he play into all this?
I
Because
wonder if
it's-
he shows up. Like,
and also
at
how
the
will
end.
this? How did watching this film? Will this change people's opinions on the people that didn't like Man of Steel or the people that didn't like Batman vs Superman?
Yeah.
Because that that nightmare scene is played out even further in this movie.
Because at no point in this movie do they go to Apocalypse.
No,
Everything is happening on Earth, taking on the form of like Apocalypse, I guess.
that's what they want. That's basically what they want. They want
it's
to
like-
turn Earth into an apocalypse.
Yeah. So, I wonder if it's a scenario where, but it's interesting how because they pretty much fight Steppenwolf to the very end.
Right.
Makes you wonder where they're going to put Darkseid in. But we did see a visual of Darkseid somewhere in a preview, didn't we?
In a trailer.
In a trailer.
In the new trailer for the Snyder film. we see him.
They show Darkseid in the trailer.
They show him.
Yeah.
We don't
Darkseid.
see him in anything with the Whedon cut.
Yeah, right. No, I agree. And so it's the Whedon cut is the original cut.
2017.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
the one we're reviewing.
Right.
I know. You're jumping back and forth.
Whedon,
Same name
okay.
movie. Just
okay. For the record, Whedon and Snyder, I think, have the same number of letters in their names, so it's really hard to distinguish. So, what was I going to say? So Superman versus Steppenwolf, like hand-to-hand combat. It seems like Superman
very heavy-handed.
can just beat the crap out of him. Like he's really.
And I was actually
overpowering.
I was wondering how they were going to play that off, and you know what? I'm happy they played it off the way it did, because it just showed that Steppenwolf is no match for him, and that.
But you think he would be? I thought it should have been
in the comics.
It should have been a closer contest.
In the comics, it usually is, but the fact that I think Superman was just like not messing around, he's like, I'm just going to take him out. I think if it's Darkseid, I think it's going to be a very different battle.
Yeah, I think it should be, because I think
that to me is going to be much more high stakes.
Because I can tell you right now, in the comics, Darkseid can absolutely hold his own against Superman.
Big time.
And in fact, you tell me
He's
if
even
I'm wrong.
no, he's beaten him.
I think he's more so. Like,
yeah.
At the end of the day, Darkseid, because if Darkseid can't beat Superman, then any two Kryptonians can beat the shit out of Darkseid. You know what I'm saying? Because Superman is not a super Kryptonian. He's just like any other Kryptonian. So that means you have an entire race of people where any one of those people technically should be able to beat Darkseid in hand-to-hand combat. And I don't think that's the case. I think Darkseid is tougher than any random Kryptonian.
Darkseid's tougher. The way typically Superman ends up winning is he usually outsmarts him.
Which is a little odd, because Darkseid isn't stupid.
No, he's not.
He's not
But people that are overconfident.
he's not like a pugilist. He's not like the Hulk where
But he's like the Emperor in Star Wars. He gets overconfident, and when he does, he makes a mistake, and then figures out that mistake. To me, it's more about like his ego than anything else.
Okay. Now.
All right, we had a little brief interlude. Johnny Moe needed to refill.
Had to refill me Murphy's Irish Stout.
It is St. Patrick's Day after all.
Mm-hmm.
So, the overall plot of before we keep going with the plot, what did you think of Danny Elfman's score
in this movie?
Yes.
I'll be honest with you. I don't. It didn't stand out to me. I'm not saying it's bad. It didn't make a significant impression on me at the time, and I know that because when you ask me that question now, I don't recall the score at all.
The only thing that truly stands out to me is that Danny Elfman, famous composer, has done tons of films that you've seen before. But one of the more famous scores that he did is he came up with the original 1989 Batman theme that was used for multiple Batman movies as well as Batman the Animated Series.
Wait a minute, the original 1989, the first Batman movie with Michael Keaton?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was that directed by Tim Burton, or was that?
It was Tim Burton.
Tim Burton did the first one.
He did the first two.
One. And
correct.
was Elfman on?
Elfman did both. Yep. So, if you listen very carefully in certain scenes, you will hear the original '89 Batman theme kind of thrown in with the Justice League music. And there is a slight nod to John Williams' Christopher Reeve Superman theme.
Yeah, I want you to elaborate on that, because we were watching the end credits, and they gave in the songs they gave a credit to Superman the movie,
John Williams, right?
John Williams. So that means that that's not an homage. No. That means that the actual music was used in the film. So when was it used?
There was notes that were used. You could first hear it when Superman is resurrected and he's at the memorial and he's fighting the Justice League, and they're going up against him. There is a slight nod to him when he's kind of like fast fighting the Flash when they're in like super speed mode.
Okay.
And then there's another thread of that when Superman's fighting Steppenwolf. It's a little hint of the music. It's not the full theme, but it's enough that you could pick it out if you know the theme well enough. So those two, to me, that was pretty cool that they did that. I like that Danny Elfman did that. Other than that, the score for me was, it was okay. It's not to me the Hans Zimmer score of Man of Steel, which I still say is one of the best scores of any superhero film. It really is one of the best. Other than the John Williams the Superman the movie, which I consider to be the best musical score for a comic book film, the Hans Zimmer one is right up there. This film, the Justice League one, is done by Junkie XL, and he had a score for the original cut back in 2017, which was going to be like a 2.5, almost a 3-hour film. He had a whole score for that, and last year he threw it out. And he said he did it because he knew he was going to start from scratch.
Oh, okay. He wanted
when the Snyder Cut was announced, and he knew this. I think his name's Tom Holkinson or something like that. So when Junkie XL, when they said, you're going to score this thing, and Snyder told him it's going to be a 4-hour film, he went back and he basically started from scratch. And from what I've heard, and Snyder's done this before, where he takes scores and throws in other like popular like music or songs, like he did with Watchmen. Okay. Where like you remember Watchmen, right?
Haven't seen it in a long time.
Oh, okay. Well, he threw in multiple like notable songs that you like. If you hear it, like you'll know them, and interweaved those really well throughout the film. And from what I've heard from people that have reviewed this movie already, they've done something very similar, but that the score is completely different. And I'm really looking forward to that because I really appreciated, because Junkie XL did work with Hans Zimmer in Batman vs Superman, so I do want to see what he does with this. I'm sure we're going to get the actual themes from Man of Steel, from Batman vs Superman, and Wonder Woman in this movie.
Because now the new Justice League Snyder Cut, right? Snyder Cut,
very good,
is debuting this Friday on.
I think tomorrow, actually.
Oh, tomorrow on Amazon,
HBO Max.
HBO Max.
Yep.
4 1-hour installments?
No, it was going to be put into that 4 1 installments, but they ended up doing. Snyder said no, I want it to be solid, so it's going to be a 1 4-hour movie.
Oh, so they're releasing the entire 4-hour movie.
A 4-hour movie. And
good.
But it's going to be. It's not that they're breaking it up, but what I heard is that
we might be breaking it up into 4 1-hour installments. I don't know that we can get.
I'm watching the whole thing.
Oh, I know you are.
But it's gonna. So what I heard is
you're gonna watch it tomorrow.
They're making chapters out of it, but it's like it's gonna be like so like you can stop at a chapter and like be done. But no, I plan on watching the whole thing tomorrow.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the Amazonians, because once again, I find the Amazonians to be they look cool and they act cool, but when it comes to getting into a battle, they just I feel like they're 100 years behind the times. These are this is the whole race of, I don't know. I guess they're not a race of Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman is,
she's special.
She's special.
Yeah.
But you got, these Amazons, and it's like...
They're warriors.
They're warriors, and so, if you drop 20 of them in the middle of Manhattan, they'll be able to kill everybody, because everybody's just a bunch of people walking around. But as it turned, in the original Wonder Woman movie, a bunch of Germans showed up on the shore with machine guns, 1/1,000,000th of the entire German army, a couple of boats worth of Germans showed up, and destroyed them, killed them, wiped them out,
they didn't kill that many. I mean, they definitely killed.
They killed
some,
enough of them,
but they definitely killed a bunch. Yes, but it's also because it was the first time that they've, I think, ever seen that type of technology. Also, when you're talking about bullets flying at them,
right?
It's not something that they've been used to.
And that was okay. So that was back in 1913.
That was World War One.
That was World War One. So flash forward to today in Justice League, and they're still doing the same stuff. They're running around on horses and shooting arrows and doing their acrobatics. So now you got a bunch of parademons that show up, and they make mincemeat out of them. And it's not like he hit them with every parademon he had. He just brought enough parademons to fill the room, and you got a room full of parademons. You got a room full of Amazonians. And they're getting destroyed. You know, because they're sitting there with their bow and arrows, and and they're
Well, you don't
they're fancy
technically,
and I'm like,
but to be fair, you don't see what actually happens in the room.
Well, so
You don't see enough that
and
happens.
this to me is hysterical. Like so like they got the mother box.
Yes.
Well, they have the mother box in this room that's encased. It's a giant oval,
Right.
like orb type room. And it's like, okay, grab the orb, grab the mother box, and let's go and seal everybody off. So it's almost like they make it sound like they're sealing everybody left behind in a tomb.
Yes.
Battle to the death, and
Right.
giving their lives.
Good luck to you.
Right. So they seal it off, and they take off, and Steppenwolf just goes like, "All right, I'm in a brick building. I think I'll just walk through this wall
Yeah.
and start the chase."
Which is exactly what he does.
Like it's not like it's a force field. It's not made of vibranium. It's made of brick and
Stone.
mortar. It's made of stone. Like, and it's like, oh, Steppenwolf is just like, all right, well, they sealed the door, but who cares?
Well, he takes his axe and he just slices
And it
through
just
the
goes
rock
through
and he
it.
gets
So now it's like so now they're running away. They're trying to keep the mother box away from the bad guys. And it's like they're just transferring it from horse to horse. There's a woman on a horse, and she goes down and give it to the next woman.
They know they
And
can't
it's like,
kill Steppenwolf.
Like, but like I'm sitting there going, I remember going to Chris during the movie. I'm like, oh, if only they had a faster horse, they might have gotten away from Steppenwolf. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like this is like the Middle Ages. Get on the horse and ride. Like I'm like,
But that's all they are is like Greek mythology.
but they're like the protectors of the realm. And like they've just stayed behind, and like they're masters of the realm. If there was no industrial revolution, which was been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. They just seem to be when the chips are down and there's a battle, they just appear to be so inept. Like,
but they didn't.
They're like the Keystone Cops.
But they weren't inept in the battle, in the original battle with Steppenwolf. They were one of the forces that stepped
Oh yeah,
up
well they had a
and
lot
pushed
of
them
other
away.
people. They had a lot of people with them. Not for
Exactly.
nothing, a couple of Green Lanterns with some Green Lanterns.
Well, you had one Green Lantern,
That's a pretty good.
but you had some of the gods.
You had gods with you, like So all these women are running around, but like, I just feel like I expect the Amazonians to kick butt, and when it's just we've seen them twice with just them and a small force of whoever. In the first case, just human beings. In the second case, these parademons, and it's like they're just getting demolished. And I just feel like, it's comical because you sit there and go, I think it should have been a better fight. They won hands down. Like, I mean, it wasn't they won hands down. They just all they had to do was show up, and they were.
But there was like you're talking about the original, your criticism of the original Wonder Woman film. The one thing I'll push back at is that they highlight a bunch of scenes with the Amazonian women as Chris Pine just stares around and watches them, and they do like destroy some of the German soldiers in ways that like he hasn't seen before. I think it was more like some of their people, ended up dying because they were not used to seeing that type of.
It's true though. But if the Germans showed up with 5 more boats, they could have killed them all.
But
you know what I mean? Like they would have killed all of them. And
but they didn't, because you got to remember, there's only a small force that hit the beach when that boat came.
Well, yeah,
on.
they would have wiped
And
them out and just started marching inland.
But as soon as, after a certain point, the rest of like the cavalry like starts coming down, and it's like, all right, that would have been different too. And not only that too, but look at the cavalry that started coming.
Yeah, they're all going to be on horseback. You know what happened? Like back in the day, like when the
yeah, but they're so accurate with the bow and arrow. Like they're so accurate.
Yeah. But like all you need is this one guy one German with a one trigger happy German with a machine gun, and he's just going to lay waste to all of them. You know what it reminds me of? I'll tell you what it reminds me of. It reminds me of when you watch some of these westerns where you have like these Indian tribes where like these are all brave warriors and they're skilled with the knife and whether it's bow and arrows and knives and this and that, and they finally meet the American army, and it's like, okay, they charge, and the Americans just get out their guns and just shoot them, and they're like, you're not going to win. And that's how I feel with the Amazonians. It's like they can't win because they just haven't. They're not at the. They're not at the technological level of the parademons and the people from Apocalypse. They're not at the technological level of even any American army with guns and God forbid grenades. Could you imagine now? Could you imagine if like the Americans were attacking Amazon Island? They just sit there and say, "There it is. All right, one nuke, hit the button.
One nuke.
We don't even have to lose a soul. Like boom, just blow the island up. Like that would be the end." Like I feel like they should be like I feel like they should have more superpowers. They should be an island of Wonder Woman. Without like any one of them is a force to be reckoned with.
I do think that they probably should be able to fight a little bit more so than what we've seen. I can play with that. Yes.
Even like I don't know, magical arrows. Like Hawkeye shows up and he goes, "Are you guys kidding me? I got my arrows destroy your arrows." Like they were like, "Oh wow, your arrows do fancy things. They just don't just go through skin." No, they Sonic. It's just crazy. So I found that to be one of my criticisms, and it struck a chord with me because it brought up so much of the feelings that I had watching the first Wonder Woman movie, where the Germans just show up and just shoot everyone. And I'm just like, whoa, they're not really prepared to take on Germany. A small group of boats showed up and they just wiped, and they really did a number on them. You would almost expect that like the Germans would be completely outclassed and they wouldn't, they had shields to block the bullets and
right.
they destroyed them, and they didn't. So that's my Amazonian shtick. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, I asked you this before and you tried to explain it to me and I still don't get it. Everybody's afraid when Superman wakes up that he's going to want to beat the hell out of Bruce Wayne / Batman because of how he left off when he died. And I don't get that, because in Batman vs. Superman, they were fighting, but then they stopped fighting and they joined forces against, what's his name? Doomsday. And Doomsday killed Superman.
Yeah.
So is the expectation that when Superman gets resurrected, he's forgetting about who killed him, he forgot that him and Batman eventually got on the same side, and he's only remembering the fact that, Batman hit him with the kryptonite bombs and made him bleed and punched him and all that. Like, because they make it really like even Wonder Woman's like, he's not going to like you when he sees you. You better not be the first one he sees. And I'm sitting there going, and the whole time they do these things, I'm going, why? Why is he not going to like Batman? They joined forces against Doomsday, and Superman gave his life fighting Doomsday. Because what killed Superman?
Doomsday impaled him with
and
his
then
bone,
and then he pushed him closer, and it went through him.
He pulled himself down the pike, and then Superman stuck him with the kryptonite spear.
Superman stuck him with the kryptonite spear. So Wonder Woman and Batman at that point were really just kind of watching on the sidelines and seeing how it was going to turn out and hoping that Superman killed him. So I didn't find that whole thing. It didn't ring true to me that Superman would wake up and be pissed at Batman, and he was, and I'm like, why is he pissed at Batman? Why? That didn't make sense.
I think because they pushed the narrative that if he wakes up, what if he's not normal? Like, what if he's
right? And I expect that. I expect him to be disorientated and screwed up. But in that case, he would be mad at everybody.
Well, he did fight them all.
Right, he did fight them because he didn't
fight Batman to the very end.
Yeah, he almost saw everybody as like demons or whatever.
Well, I guess it's
so. I could see him being all screwy.
I guess it's what they tried to portray it as.
Yeah, but they should have just left it at that. They should have just said, we don't know how he's going to be when he wakes up, as opposed to, well, Batman.
Bruce, you better be.
Yeah,
yeah.
But
no, I agree. I think that part was. I think that could have been done a heck of a lot better. The whole death and his whole resurrection could have been done a lot better. I do like that Cyborg was able to access the ship by creating his own key and accessing the ship that way.
Cyborg seems to me to be almost too powerful. Is he that powerful in the comics?
Cyborg,
I don't think so.
But he's able to interact with like any piece of technology.
Well, okay, so Cyborg's origin stems from power from the Mother Box. So I get that he's got all the superpower now. But in the comics, is that his origin? or is he just a cyborg?
I think in the newer version of Cyborg, they used the mother box
Maybe like
to help keep him alive after an accident.
Okay.
I don't think that was the origin in what was it, Teen Titans?
Yeah, because I don't remember. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't read a lot of Teen Titans. I didn't read a lot of DC growing up. But I mean, I knew the characters. But it never occurred to me in the DC comics in the '80s when the Teen Titans came out that Cyborg was like.
I think Cyborg got a huge. I think he got a huge
Of
push.
course, he dealt with.
I think he got a huge push when they did the New 52, when the comics got rebooted, and that was before all this came out.
Yeah, and that I could see.
And I think because they pushed him up and they made him part of the Justice League, when they did this film, they tried to do a little bit of homework with that and put some of that storyline, that origin into this.
Yeah,
this
so
film,
maybe this Cyborg character is more in line with the new 52.
Yeah, I know.
version of Cyborg.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
and
okay.
the only thing that I don't like, I didn't like his armor. Like, I didn't like the way that it looked. It was so jagged.
You know what? It was
wasn't
really weird because
smooth.
the only skin that you see on him is
his face.
cut out of his face, and like everything,
Everything else was cybernetic.
yeah, you know, and that's
in the
kind of
comics,
weird.
it's not.
Yeah,
I
think he has more human. I think he has
He
more
does.
human parts in the comics.
He does, and I really wish they would have done that more rather than just having the majority of him cybernetic. I think in the movie at some point, like especially in the Batman vs Superman scene, you see the origin of Cyborg where it's like his torso and like part of his arm.
Yeah.
And his head, and that's really it.
Yeah,
and then the whole mother box like binds.
When they were doing the mother
box
box thing, when his father was doing the mother box thing, was that happening at Star Lab?
Yeah, I believe it was.
Because now, he's just hanging out in his apartment.
Yeah,
and all the stuff.
Because they basically said that
that's
he's
going
dead.
on in his apartment.
As far as anyone's concerned, Victor Stone is dead.
Right, but is the mother box in his apartment?
I think it was.
Because that's weird.
I think it was. I think that's where they were keeping. That's where he was keeping me.
You know,
Because that's where
like,
the parademon went.
Yeah, it's
go
just
get
it's like you're just hanging out in your flat in Manhattan, and we just happen to have
Because that's where Vic went to go get it, so that they could resurrect.
Powerful weapon.
So they could resurrect Superman.
There's no security. He's just there's a padlock on his door, and that's it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I think you enjoyed this too, is when Superman wakes up and he's starting to fight with everybody, and the Flash starts to flank him.
Yep.
And he's going Flash speed, and Superman sees it.
And you just see his eyes move at first.
His eyes move, and then he starts to match it with his head, and it's like, ooh. I mean, that to me.
And the look on Flash's face, because he's
like,
like,
are you kidding me? Like
yeah.
He's tracking me with his eyes,
right.
and that to me.
That was a great scene.
That to me was, it's not a pivotal scene.
No.
It's not imperative to any storyline in the movie. It's just a really fun.
It's just enjoyable.
Yeah, it's just really fun. And
I actually found.
I think that scene to me is my emotional highlight of the film. Not because it's the most endearing. It's the coolest scene of the film. I was like, ooh, wow.
It just fulfilled that little fanboy.
Look at that.
A little bit.
Yeah, he sees him. Superman is fast.
I'll be honest. The fight scene with all the Justice League characters might be my favorite scene in the film.
Oh, when everybody's fighting Superman.
Because when they're all fighting him, because one, it just, he's still disoriented and he's kind of like staring everyone down, and then all of a sudden, Cyborg says he's scanning us. So Superman's using his visual abilities to look at everybody, and I found that to be interesting, and then he just basically takes them all on one by one.
Yeah.
And the only one who gives him any trouble is Wonder Woman.
Yeah, the only one who really gives him any trouble is Wonder Woman.
And she almost comes in, and when she did, and the first thing I thought of when they were all fighting, and I was said to him, "Oh, she's going to use the lasso on him, and it's going to knock him out of it, right?" And then she does. She uses it. He grips it and holds it in his arm.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
Yeah,
It almost turns him, and then of course we have to wait till Lois comes, and then Lois.
Right. And not for nothing. So
gets him out of it.
when they talk about so and so is bringing in their secret weapon, Lois is the secret weapon. And you know what? It's like I think in my head when I was watching that for the first time, I was like, wow, what's the secret weapon?
I said the same exact thing.
Like, are they, are they bringing some kryptonite? They bring in his, but I mean, I think his mother, I think Lois would have worked. I think his mother would have worked too.
Yeah, I think either one.
And that not for nothing, that's a big gamble because it's not a guarantee that it's going to work because he might just, crush their heads before he snaps out of it, and then he's going to be real upset.
Well, that's
because
the
these are human beings.
When he's holding Bruce up in the air and he's got him by the throat,
yeah,
he easily could have just
crushed him,
just
in a
snapped
second.
his neck, and dropped him.
Batman would have had no recourse against that.
So, listen, there were things about this film that I know that we both enjoyed as I'm watching it. And even as I watched it again the other night, like I definitely laughed in certain spots because it definitely was a lighter toned film than what we had seen. But since we knew about the existence of Snyder's film, and once after that 2017 film came out, within weeks we started to really learn how much of this film was Whedon and how much of this film was Snyder. And then there were just and then the movement started of release the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
And that phenomenon led to this film getting made.
Nice.
And if it wasn't for all of those people that believed in it for so long and pushed and pushed and pushed, there was a banner taken out at New York Comic Con that year that we went. I think it was it was either 2018 or 2019. There was a banner, release the Snyder Cut, that all those people purchased.
You know what? I
at Comic Con
I
that year,
remember
at New York Comic Con.
seeing that, or you telling me about it, and I was
like,
sitting there going, I
it
remember
was
asking
a
you, going,
huge billboard.
What is that about? And you were telling me like, well, with the whole thing between the two directors,
and it was just it's just amazing that these got that the power of these people got this thing done.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm sure Warner Brothers did a lot of this to push the new HBO Max because it's a huge movie that's going to get people to buy and subscribe into HBO Max at least for 1 month just to watch this movie.
Right.
But for them, they probably saw it as a great marketing tool to push HBO Max. Mm-hmm. And why not? I mean, seriously, like the footage was already done. They had to finish the film, so they still had to spend money, and they spent, I think, a good amount of it. But they could probably chart that up to marketing and just be like, once this film is done, this is our marketing item to get more subscribers. And I think it's going to pay off. And I've been reading. I haven't been going into any spoilers, but I've been reading reviews, and the reviews seem a lot more positive than the 2017 film.
Yeah, because my recollection of the 2017 film, the critics.
Yeah.
I think it was panned. Like I don't think it got.
Yeah.
It didn't get. It
was.
It didn't get horrible reviews.
No.
But it didn't get. It certainly didn't get rave reviews.
It didn't get favorable.
It was like. It was a mix,
but
mix
more
of,
leaning towards the negative.
Okay, good, bad, not as good as I would have expected.
Yeah.
I expected more.
But this film already.
But I think the expectation was high.
The expectation was high
because this was the first
team up for
DC team, and I think with Marvel, all the hype and expectation and success that the Avengers movie saw, because that was the team movie.
Yeah.
The real team,
No, Warner Brothers saw the dollar signs and said, "Hey, we need a $1 billion film."
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this was not their $1 billion film. And ultimately, I think if they would have waited, if they never hired Whedon and they just told Zach after the family tragedy, like, you know what, take your time. When you're ready to come back on the project, we'll finish the project.
Yeah.
And we'll push Justice League into the next year, which they easily could have done. And I think the film would have done a lot better for it. They could have finalized the visual effects. They could have tightened up the story. And you still could have had a 2 hour and 45 minute, a 3 hour film in the theater. And I think ultimately that would have been the best thing. And just what we got, unfortunately, was, to me, it was a placeholder. Like you'd go back, you look at 2017 now and 2021, you're like, all right, the Joss Whedon was a placeholder. Like, this is the film. Like, I'm saying this now when I watch this movie tomorrow, I don't think I will ever go back and watch the 2017 film.
Yeah, no,
Ever again.
yeah, probably not.
It's like I don't go back and I watch the theatrical cut of Batman vs Superman. If it's on TV, I turn it off because I'll put on the Ultimate Edition. There's no reason for me to watch the theatrical cut ever again. Yeah. And I will consider the 2017 film the theatrical cut and the 2021 Justice League the director's cut. And that's ultimately what I will watch.
And I think that all comes back to, I think, I just feel that, like, all the DC movies, they're constantly chasing the dollar sign with their tail between their legs. They're not looking at the big picture. They're looking at each individual movie as we need to make money on this movie, as opposed to we need to make money on the franchise.
Or play the long game.
They're not. You're right. They're not playing the long game. They're playing each individual game as its own game. Whereas Marvel played the long game, and if Ant-Man and the Wasp didn't do good, it didn't pull the plug on the franchise. They just said, okay, this movie didn't do as good, but guess what? Guardians 2 did excellent, and at the end of the day, the pluses and the minuses, there's a lot more pluses. And if you really look at what Marvel did with their Marvel Cinematic Universes, they did something that nobody else did before, and nobody else has done since, because DC has not copied what they're doing.
But I think they didn't copy it on purpose because they didn't want to say, oh, well, they're only going to be successful because they copied the Marvel.
But the problem is they replace it with a losing formula.
With a right.
Or a much more flawed formula.
I agree. I don't think.
I think you just have all these people sitting there going, okay, like I said, like they said, well, we need this movie to be only 2 hours.
Right.
And the only reason for that is because somebody thinks they'll be able to get more screenings. And
I ultimately think that I think DC's in a much better direction now over the last couple of years. So I'm hoping to start seeing more successful films.
And they can thank Wonder Woman for that, because I think that finally opened their eyes that like, well, it's not just Batman and Superman.
Yeah, I think Wonder Woman did well. Listen, Aquaman was $1 billion movie. Okay, it had mixed reviews, but that movie made $1 billion
worldwide.
Well, of course, worldwide.
Yeah,
you're not going to make that. There's only a couple of films that have made $1 billion in the U.S. alone.
Yeah.
No, that was $1 billion film. Shazam did really, really well, and that was done well critically.
And nothing beats Joker.
And Joker was done extremely well, and that has nothing to even do with the connected universe.
Right, but
that was another $1 billion movie.
Oh, and
that made $1 billion.
And I bet you it's the most profitable movie of the entire bunch because of the low budget.
It has to be.
And it's just one of these things where it's like, what, take a chance, do something creative. Marvel didn't do that. Marvel isn't really taking chances and doing things creative like the Joker, but they don't need to. Because they're playing the long game, and they have a long string of movies that are all connected.
Well, they have the decade planned out.
Yeah, they have this huge plan and all these movies are connected at an integral level.
Yeah. We're going to end up seeing where all this goes over the next couple of years. I mean, DC has stuff lined up. They have a Black Adam movie, which is supposed to introduce the Justice Society. They have the Flash movie.
Why would it introduce? Does it take place in the past?
I don't know the timeline. It could be, but I just know that it's starring The Rock, and I think Hawkman's going to be in it.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure other members of the Justice Society are supposed to be in it as well. So
Martian Manhunter.
Martian Manhunter is supposed to be in the Justice League movie.
In the one coming out.
Yeah. Oh. So we might see him.
Oh, good. Because at the end of the day, DC
they have a ton of characters.
Has a ton of characters.
Yeah. They're supposed to be doing a Blue Beetle movie. We've got, of course, the Flash movie coming out.
And they have huge characters that they've even tapped yet. Like they were so stuck. They were so stuck in the we can only make money with Batman and Superman that they have. Marvel is making movies. They're pulling in minor characters from out of nowhere. The Black Widow movie has Red Guardian. Nobody knows who Red Guardian is. I know who Red Guardian is because I know Marvel. I have a first appearance Red Guardian. But guess what? Red Guardian first appeared in Avengers 43, and he died in Avengers 44. But lo and behold, character that was in 2 comic books, boom, they pull him into the Black Widow movie. DC's been making movies for just as long, and, we're still waiting for Martian Manhunter, Hawkman, Supergirl. You know,
Yeah.
these are
Big
big.
names.
These are household DC names.
Yep.
You know, because what DC has to realize is that it's not just Batman, Superman, and now you can say Wonder Woman. Because
Well, it's all about,
there's
listen,
more.
it's about,
There's
it's about
so
the,
much more.
It's about the people you get to make the movie.
Yeah, you know, pull in these characters. I mean, come on, like
Yeah.
you know, Spectre. I mean, Spectre would be a great freaking
Do a new version of Constantine.
Yeah. Oh, come on, this.
You
You
know?
know,
So-
just wake up and take a chance and do something.
Give us an updated Green Lantern movie.
Give us a whole new erase that movie because I think the original Green Lantern movie was made long ago enough you could even say it. It's almost like the first Hulk movie. It doesn't even take place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe continuity. I think the Green Lantern movie could just be erased and they just do a total reboot.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you screw up Green Lantern, come on. I mean, Green Lantern is one of their best characters. I mean, I would say I know your favorite DC character is Superman, but who's your second and third favorite DC character? Superhero.
Probably Batman and Wonder Woman.
Okay. My favorite DC superhero is Green Lantern. My second favorite is Flash. And then I think my third favorite is Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they got the Flash movie coming out, so I mean, like I said.
Oh, yes. There's a Flash movie coming
Flash
out.
movie coming, and I think we are going to start to see a lot of. I think what they're going to end up doing is hitting some of their bigger known names, and then they're going to bring in the smaller characters into those movies, and then see what develops from there. I think that seems to be somewhat of a plan going forward right now, but we don't know.
Because not only do you have Hawkman, you have Hawkgirl,
Yeah.
Red Tornado.
No.
I mean, well, Black Canary we got in Suicide
Well,
Squad.
I think we're also getting Dr. Fate in the Black Adam movie.
Dr. Fate.
So
I mean,
I-
forget about some of these Golden Age characters. You know, like
Oh, and we have a whole-
Hourman. I don't think you'll see Hourman anymore.
And we have a whole new Suicide Squad movie.
There's a new Suicide Squad movie coming.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
That's coming out next year.
Good. And not for nothing, I think the first Suicide Squad was probably one of the most successful films.
It made a lot of money.
Yeah.
I hated the ending, but it made a lot of money.
Wait, there hasn't been a second Suicide Squad movie.
Nope.
I keep thinking of Birds of Prey, and it's like it's
Because
not.
she was in
because
that
of
too.
Harlequin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not.
Yeah.
But I mean, oh god, you know, I even forgot about do you even know Red Tornado?
Yeah, of course.
I think he's an android.
He's an android.
Yeah, you know, I mean, if Marvel was in charge of this, every single character we named would have been in a movie 5 years ago, and they'd be pulling in more.
Well, here's the one thing. So, listen, Marvel has Disney Plus. Warner Brothers has DC has HBO Max.
Yeah.
And I think what you're going to start seeing is you're going to see series being developed with some of those minor, lesser known characters on HBO Max.
Yeah.
I think they're going to develop series based on some of these characters and get them thrown in. That would be my guess. Like if you're looking to pump out and get subscribers, you got to start hitting them with some of these comic characters that people are going to want to watch and follow.
Yeah.
And I think James Gunn, who directed the first Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm sorry, directed both first and second Guardians of the Galaxy, is directing the new Suicide Squad.
Okay.
So
You know, strike while the iron is hot.
Hopefully-
you know, superhero movies.
he's already got a spinoff.
thing.
His movie wrapped a while ago, and it hasn't even it's not even on the screen yet. And they've already taken one of his characters in Suicide Squad and is giving him a series on HBO Max
Wow.
already. So like there's got to be something good to that. They're doing a whole Gotham PD series on HBO Max. It's just the cops. It's not going to be superheroes.
Not
but
for nothing, on the small screen on the TV, they should be doing an entire series based on Sandman.
they could absolutely.
Of course they could, but why aren't they doing that? You know, Sandman. The Sandman in the Marvel universe is the guy who made a Sand. The Sandman in the DC universe is a completely different Sandman. You know,
Yeah.
he's Dream.
Gaiman.
He's Dream. He's an otherworldly type character, and there's a whole cast of characters in that.
Well, I
That's got small screen series written all over it. If you put some good writers on there, you bring Neil Gaiman on board, who wrote all the these are gold chips. These are blue chip stocks that you're not cashing in. And why Swamp? You do a classic treatment of Swamp Thing. You know
They did do a series of Swamp
You're
Thing.
decades past the Swamp Thing fiasco movies.
They did a Swamp Thing on the Warner Brothers app. That's now, I think you can watch it on I think HBO Max. It's one season. It was hailed as fantastic, but it got canceled after one season.
That's absurd because Swamp Thing is one of their, it's one of their signature.
You can watch it. You have HBO Max.
I'm going to watch that because I'm going to check that out because Swamp Thing is one of their. He's a really popular character, but he's almost like a cult. A cult type character.
They're supposed to be doing
like a Jonah Hex.
They're supposed to be doing.
He's
like
not a Superman. He's Swamp Thing.
I think they're doing like a Justice League Dark almost. So it's going to be like Zatanna, Swamp Thing, Constantine.
Oh yeah,
some of those like mystical.
Oh yeah,
like,
where's Zatanna? Where's Zatanna?
Yeah.
And even like villain wise, bringing like Solomon Grundy. A lot. A lot of these. Like Flash has like a decent
he's got a rogue.
Villains rogue. Captain Cold and Mirror Master and
the Captain Boomerang. We already saw him.
Captain Professor Zoom and Reverse Flash and all that stuff. Some of these characters are kind of cool. Like DC's just gotta.
They're still behind the ball a little bit.
They just gotta do it. Just say let's do it.
Just get out of your own way.
Like because
get the right people
because you know what's gonna happen if you don't do it. Disney's going to get annoyed that you're not doing it, and they're going to say, "God, this is what if the guys at Disney sat there and said, man, if we owned DC, we would be doing all this stuff." And someone's just going to say, just like Bruce Wayne did, "Let's just buy them. Let's just buy them and do it our way." And if I think Disney would actually would be breaking laws if they become too big. Like if you put a monopoly, you have to allow for competition, and for Disney to own Disney, all the Disney characters, and Marvel, and DC, and Star Wars. Come on, then
those are the franchises.
They own the world. They're in charge of the world. Then it becomes like in Demolition Man with everything is Taco Bell.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Everything is Disney.
Funny.
Everything is Disney.
So listen, we hope to come back this weekend and give you guys a quick review. I say
because I know you're going to watch the new Justice League tomorrow.
You're watching it. You're watching it this weekend with me. We're watching this movie.
Yeah, I'm going to try.
No, get ready. Get ready. Take a pill. Get ready. We're watching this movie.
We're gonna have to squeeze it in somewhere. Yeah.
So that's our review on 2017. It was a long review, and obviously we did a lot of cross talk between 2017 and 2021.
And it was okay because we spent the amount of time required for a movie that had so many characters, as opposed to sitting there going, we got to keep it under an hour. No, you can't. You can't keep it under an hour because it's a Justice League movie. It's not an Aquaman movie. If we were talking about the Aquaman movie, we'd be done in 45 minutes. We're not talking about the Aquaman.
We weren't done in 45 minutes when we saw it. we did that review. But guys, listen, thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you much for listening, whether it's a podcast or on YouTube. We will be back hopefully within the next couple of days with a review for the 2021 Zack Snyder Justice League.
Yes, episode 43.
That'll be 43. So keep in touch. Watch out for that. That'll be posted very soon. Thank you guys so much.
Yep.
Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone.